Hello everyone. This hour on Verbling, the next in my Hot Topics series, we're working on the second class in today's hot topic of interconnectedness. We're taking a look at an op-ed written by a high school student in the New York Times who, in an unlikely way, found that interconnectedness was not only important for her future career, but something that can help us to understand the media itself and to understand a foreign language. So we're going to take a look at how metaphors and analogies can help with your English and help you understand a foreign text, and we'll be applying that to some other situations, to a second article if we have time, and to a demonstration in physics as well. All this comes from the New York Times recently. I think it was the other day, yesterday. Before we begin, here's a little bit about me. I'm John Eric, your Verbling teacher for this hour. I'm an American teacher from New York, hanging out in Lisbon, Portugal to bring you this class. Here are 3 quick rules to help you participate. Don't forget to turn off, tune in, and open up. That means turn off your microphone when you're not speaking so we can keep the classroom quiet. Tune in to the new words you're learning. When we are speaking, use them as actively as you can so I can correct you. Finally, open up to your classmates. Relax and have fun. We're all here to learn, and this is a safe and respectful place to practice your English. And on screen right now, I'm going to put back the paragraph that we just finished. What we're going to do is briefly summarize what we've read so far, very briefly, and then we're going to complete, there's just 2 or 3 paragraphs left. Then we're going to talk about the article and what it means. It's an interesting op-ed, not just because it was written by a young person, but because it has something to say about how we do science, something to say about how we understand nonfiction writing, how metaphors can help you with that, and how they're used. So all these things we can talk about in just a minute. Igor, I was calling on you in the last class, but I couldn't hear you. I don't know if you're having connection problems.
Yeah, I've had some connection problems.
Igor, let's start with a little summary. Based on what we've read so far, what have we learned in this op-ed? If we start with a little summary, then it'll be easier for people who are watching.
Well, I think the most important thing to mention about this article is that we are talking about how the nature is really interconnected, like some small things in nature can vastly affect another bigger things.
Absolutely. That's the overall point. I agree. And Artur, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
And adding to what Igor just said, how is that idea reflected in the experience of this student, this intern at Parks and Recreation? How did she, in what way is she describing how things are interconnected in an unlikely way? So what, in other words, what did we find out in the article specifically?
I'm not sure about this.
Oh, give me your idea, and then we'll see. I'll help you with it. But what's your impression? What's your general impression?
Well, from what we read, she says that she is a kind of a part of mandala.
That's right. That's exactly it, yeah. She feels that she's part of this mandala, just like the mandala that she saw being drawn or designed when she was on recess when she was young. So she's in New York, because at the end of the article you see she goes to the Dalton School. It's a very elite school, great school before you go to high school. I think it's kindergarten all up. It's very expensive too. But in recess they're on the street in New York. So she saw this Tibetan monk creating a mandala, and that image stayed with her. So, based on what we read so far, maybe, Yuki, I'd like you to add a little bit here. Based on what we read, what did you get from this mandala idea? How is that mandala being painted by the monk when she's a kid? How is that related to her work? And I can think of two ways, actually. I don't know what you remember from the article.
I think basic conception of Buddhism is ephemeral.
Ephemerality.
Ephemerality.
Well, what do you mean ephemera, things that are short, or ephemerality, the quality of being short?
It's a sense of mortality.
Okay, so
sense of maybe life is short and maybe there is no meanings.
That doesn't sound like Buddhism. That sounds like existentialism. That sounds like nihilism. I thought Buddhists were really happy people.
Yes, and they know. I think they know life is beautiful, but they teach us not to expect many from our life. That's basic concept of Buddhism.
Not to expect
which
much.
I know. Yes, not to expect too much from your life. Not to earn too much money, not too much love others, concrete someone, yeah,
right,
yeah, and not so not to be how to say,
ambitious?
Ambitious, yes, ambitious, gorgeous, yes, such kind of thing. So
all things in moderation, perhaps. Moderation is important.
Moderation is important, and most important things for Buddhists is understanding what life is like. Life is kind of sandland, yeah, maybe. It is it is vanity. How to say? There are many difficulties in our lives, and you are suffering from many things in this world. But you don't have to give up to live better, because life is what is like. But life is itself is kind of such a thing. So you have to give up your high expectation from life, and most important thing is to reach the enlightenment.
To understand. And I think that one point about the mandala, yes, it's deep. Deep is always hard to talk about, even if you're a native speaker. One thing about the mandala is that it's a very intricate design, and then at the end, the wind blows it away, or the monk pours water on it, or whatever. So that is symbolic of life too, because no matter what you achieve in life, at the end, you're just a grain of sand that blows away. And so the idea is to understand the big picture and not get confused, not think that this mandala of your life is something permanent. So these things all came up in the internship and in the field of ecology that she's trying to talk about. So she mentions in the paragraph that Yuki just read, ephemerality and impermanence, that this is also something that came up in the mandala, and she saw it in her new career. She saw that it was a really important point.
Yes, most important point is what is drawn in mandala is not important for them, for monks. You can pour the picture into running water. It will disappear easily. Life is kind of something like mandala's picture. For them, it is very important to know a mandala consists of very tiny pieces, species, picture is not important. Important thing is that mandala is consists of very, very tiny pieces. So I was surprised to know that some monks coming from Tibet to Japan, they in late night they were just seeing the television screen, which nothing is shown. It is just noise. Yeah, after translation, yeah, there is noise. He peered to the screen more than 1 hours, and they trained. They just for meditation. So he said that television screen, noise screen is a kind of mandala's picture. It is a good tool for training.
Wow, you
Yes.
can make a lot of money as a TV broadcaster in Tibet.
Yes, you don't have to pay for translation.
Yeah,
you
don't
just
have to
see the noise.
no actors, no production. Wow, that would be. I think we've got a business opportunity here.
And you will get the enlightenment. You will get
maybe.
to the enlightenment.
I don't know if you'll get it, but you'll give it to the viewers at least. Okay, let's just finish reading the article. We're almost done, actually, and then we'll talk about it. So I think Yuki was there. So Artur, we're back to you, and you're going to pick up, 1 second, here where it says just as the sands. See where we are at the bottom?
Yes.
Go for it.
Just as the sands of mandala shift, distorting the once perfect pattern, plant species will drift across nations, swept across an ocean by the wind, dropped onto the soil by a bird, or carried by our own movement. In our enthusiasm for preserving native plants, we sometimes forget that movement is inevitable on this planet. So,
Wait a second.
total inevitable on this planet. So total eradication of invasive plants is impossible. A study led by Dov Sachs of Brown University and Stephen D. Janis of the University of Gaines of the University of California, Santa Barbara, found that amid competition from invasives, biodiversity can actually increase in 2 centuries. Another study led by the biologist Tiffany Knight of Washington University in St. Louis has shown that invasives may jeopardize the diversity of a plant community on a small scale, but less so on a larger scale. We know enough about invasives to take only cautious steps, not leaping bounds, towards fighting them.
That seems like a very important point at the end. What do you think she means by that last sentence? We know enough to take cautious steps, not leaping bounds. Do you know what leaping bounds means? I don't know if that's clear.
I think it means crossing the line. Or no?
Could? What do you mean? Yeah, could. Can you elaborate a little bit?
So bounds, those are kind of limits, like boundaries.
Oh, I see. No, it's not boundaries. No.
Okay.
Boundaries means bounds is big steps. Boundary is a line, but a bound is big steps.
Okay.
We have an expression to go by leaps and bounds. It means to go taking, like remember Neil Armstrong on the moon? One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. So a leap is a giant step. A bound is a giant step. So what do you think she means by that last line, in your opinion?
I think that we shouldn't exceed some limits, otherwise it would be too dangerous.
Okay, but what would be too dangerous?
To
We're talking about these invading species of plants, and that she realized, or we realized, that change is something that happens. You can't avoid it. And that's something that scientists might have not realized in the past. So I agree with you, but what is too dangerous in the context of this paragraph? We're talking about the invasives. By the way, all of you can answer. I'm just asking him because he was reading, but any of you can chime in if you like. Why cautious steps and not leaping bounds towards fighting them?
Because we don't really know what the implications would be if we wipe out some kind of invasive species.
Absolutely. We don't know what the implications would be. Everything is interconnected. We don't know what's really going to happen.
It reminds me of a story I heard long before. It actually was told at school. It's like there was an island, and people there really suffered from malaria, and then they decided to wipe out the mosquitoes there.
For malaria, you mean malaria?
Malaria, yeah.
Right.
They decided to wipe out the mosquitoes, and they did so by inducing poisonous substance.
Right.
So they did wipe out the mosquitoes, but the thing is, the mosquitoes didn't just die, but they become weaker, and the frogs. It was very easy for the frogs on the island to catch those mosquitoes, but the frogs were suffering from this kind of poison too, and they just because they're bigger than mosquitoes, they were able to adjust to this poison, but it made them a bit weaker, and there was a special kind of cat there, like a wild cat, not a very big one, but just a wild cat, and that wild cat really liked to eat frogs.
Who doesn't?
And the thing is, the poison that was employed for the mosquitoes was transferred to these cats from the frogs, and this poison for the cats was lethal, and that's why they've got a very bad outburst of rats at the island.
So they shot themselves in the foot, in other words.
Yeah.
That reminds me of how the entire world is poisoning the population of bees. Because we're trying to poison pests, things we consider pests, but as a result, the bee populations have been suffering for years. Einstein once said, if you took away the bees, humanity would have about 4 months to survive, because the bees in America, and I'm sure everywhere else, are literally shipped around the country in giant trucks to force pollination of plants.
Yeah.
Right? If we stop that, there would be no food. Because we're already forcing the pollination, and we've been doing this for, probably 100 years. So we're already...
We just can't meddle with anything we don't know about.
Well, if we do, we have to at least think about things in broader terms, because short solutions won't take into account the interconnectedness of things.
Yeah.
So,
balance keyword.
Well, we're almost finished here. So, Artur, you read. Igor, you're going to do the next paragraph, and Yuki the last one, and then we'll talk about this one.
Okay.
Go for it, Igor.
As we strive to protect native plants, we should remember that seemingly simple actions have consequences we don't foresee. As we were walking through one Cortland park this summer, Mrs. Pefek told me of a nearby field.
By the way, that's not Mrs. That's Ms. MS is Ms. Just so you know.
Miss Pefek told me of a nearby field invaded by plants like multifloral rose, bush honeysuckles, porcelain berry, and Japanese honeysuckle. It had recently been sprayed. However, beneath a layer of seemingly hostile plants, native flora like Solomon's seal, false Solomon's seal, and other herbaceous forest perennials had been thriving. These too could have been harmed by the spraying.
By the way, let me just say a quick hello to David, who's joining us right now. Hello, David.
Hello. Hello.
Hi, David. Is this your first class? Because
yeah, this is my first class with you. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay, so David, in the last hour, we began to read this op-ed. This is an opinion article, and it's about the relationship between a mandala that the author saw and her work in ecology. And the article's difficult, but together we're trying to figure out what it means and how the analogy is used between a mandala and the work that she's doing.
Okay.
So we're just finishing the article now. So I'm going to ask you to follow along. But then we're going to take what we learned from the article and we're going to apply it to other articles in the media, because we're going to look at how analogy is used in general. So it's a good skill for English as well, knowing how analogies are used in the media. Okay, that's where we are.
Okay, right. Thank you for the sum up.
And thank you for joining us. Okay, so Yuki, you can take the last paragraph, and then we'll talk about everything. So hold off on your questions for just a minute. Yuki, can you take the last one for us?
Yeah, sure.
Yuki, okay. Yuki, not David. Yuki.
Oh, sorry.
William Blake, in his poem, William Blake, in his poem, Auguries of Innocence, observed that we can see the world in the grain of sand, but sometimes we also need to step back and take a broader perspective. The mandala helped me pull back from the rough bark of single tree and see the big picture. As I continue to do research, I will keep in mind that the mandala's shifting and colorful sands can help us put ecology's complex issues in perspective.
There you go. And that's her article, and you can see Anne Hitchcock is a senior at the Dalton School. So this is written by probably an 18-year-old or 17-year-old girl who's doing an internship. Let's talk about this analogy. Let's talk about the mandala. We've talked about it a bit, but she sums it up for us. It helped me. This is the line that seems the most important to me. The mandala helped me pull back from the rough bark of a single tree and see the big picture. Let me ask you as a class, can you think of one or two ways that the big picture was kept in mind? Comparing the ecology to a mandala, can you think of one or two ways? I can think of two ways, but you tell me what you come up with.
For example, I know the many attempt now that takes place in many villages in Japan. Farmers before used chemicals to kill insects, harmful insects for the crop, for raising crop. But now they try not to use chemicals. Instead, they use they raise some kind of birds for eat insects. In result, other insects, other how to say, good insects like spiders increases. Number of spiders increases. In result, the soil is became more rich now, and the taste of rice became far better than before. It's a successful case. I think it means that they see the not see the they try to not see the detail. They try to see the whole picture of the picture. So I think that it's a successful case of seeing a big picture.
It's the opposite of what Igor was saying.
It is maybe opposite of it is a successful case in Japan. And a number of farmers taking place such a method increasing rapidly now.
Okay, so it's kind of like a biofarming.
Yes, biofarming kind of.
Very interesting.
Not so sounds gorgeous. Just simply they don't. They try to not to use chemicals.
Okay, well, it's a good example. It's a good example. And what about the rest of you? Were there any specific examples in this article? Were there any specific examples of how the mandala can be related to ecology? I can think of 2 specific examples. I want to see if the rest of you. I don't mean examples in real life yet. That's okay. You can talk about them. But in the article itself, what did the mandala make her realize, or make the scientific community realize? Because it's not just her who has this Mandela image. It's also the scientists she was working with.
Well, I think that they finally realized that battling that impact of invasive species may seem big in a small scale, but
right.
On a larger scale, they are much less noticeable.
Okay, that's a good point. By the way, instead of saying invasive species, can anyone think of a simpler way to say the word?
Pest?
What's pest is for an animal or an insect. It's a good word, but it's for an animal or an insect. Can anyone think of, what do we call a plant?
Unwanted plants.
What do we call an unwanted
Parasite.
plant? That's for something with teeth and eyes. Usually. Any other ideas?
Weed?
Weed is correct. Weed. So we can also say weeds. Maybe because she's a biologist or whatever she is. I don't know exactly what she's training to be. A botanist. Maybe she won't use the word weeds, but that's what we call them. Invasive plants are weeds.
Maybe she just wanted to sound fancy to impress her.
She's trying to get into Harvard right now, so yeah, she's got to sound a little fancy. I agree. So one lesson is that, like Igor said, that it looks serious if you look at the small scale, but if you step back, it might not be quite as bad, or it might not be the same if you step back and look at the big scale. And I think there's the opposite going on too. Here's why. She mentions that researcher Hasko, the biologist David G. Hasko, you can see it on screen now in this paragraph, and he does the exact opposite. Do you remember the technique that he came up with? What was the special scientific technique that he created? It's kind of the opposite of what Igor is saying. Do you recall?
I'm talking about birds bunching up to have more eyes to watch for their predators.
No, not talking about that. That is something that they mentioned. I'm talking about, let me see if I can find it here. Give me just a second here. One second. I don't know if I can find it. Hold on.
Nature.
No, it wasn't that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's not Haskell. Hold on. Oh, maybe I was wrong. No, sorry, wrong researcher. Sorry, it's this one. It's Ellen Peheck. Sorry, I had the wrong researcher. It's this one, Ellen Peheck. She's the one who came up with the technique.
Mandala technique.
Yeah, yeah, literally, the mandala technique. Yeah, that's right. Do you remember what it was?
It's about watching one small pile of ground, and it's like if you watch a small pile of ground, it can broaden your you're watching at a small thing, but you're really watching at a big thing at the same time.
Exactly. But instead of saying
I
pile,
think
you say area.
He tried to compare the nature, forest, with the concept of mandala. There have to be diversity. Without diversity, we will die. We all will die. So it's important to preserve what we are now, and we should see the whole picture, not the pieces of mandalas, whole picture of nature.
And so by looking at that small area of the forest or of the park, and looking at the diversity in that small area, the word is microcosm. It's a microcosm of the bigger picture. It's like a representation of the bigger picture of biodiversity.
Yes,
so
in short time, some kind of plant is harmful, but in long span, maybe it would be useful. I don't know. And
possibly, yeah. We have to find those relationships. It could be anything, yeah. But the point is, the technique, the Mandela technique, if I understood it correctly, was to take 1 square meter, study the biodiversity, and then use that to extrapolate to the bigger picture.
Yes, and also he said that on the contrary, it would be dangerous if we get into the system of nature artificially in thinking only in short time. It's very dangerous.
Okay,
because we don't know a whole picture, we don't know the system of nature well, so it is very dangerous for humankind to manipulate the nature forest system.
So yeah, it helps us see the big picture.
Yes.
Absolutely. So what I've got here is what we've got here is basically using analogy, using metaphor, and it had an unexpected result, let's say. What I want to look at is how analogy can be used in different ways. So I'm going to give you a link. I'm going to put it on the screen as well. Let me see if I can just quickly post this link for you in the chat window. Okay. So that link, I'm gonna share my screen. You don't have to open it, but if you want to see it, it's there. That link uses analogy, and it's from the media as well, to talk about a complicated problem and to make it easier to understand. Just like the Mandela made it easier to understand.
Quantum world.
Yeah. So this is a little bit of quantum mechanics for you. Give me a second just to open this, because once it loads, I'm going to play this short presentation. Give me just a second here. Okay. Let me see if I can share my screen now. Uh-oh, we lost Yuki. Yeah, this might be a little bit heavy because it's like a slideshow, so it might be a little difficult to open.
There has been a lot of problems with Google Hangout here today.
Not just today, yeah. For the last 2 weeks. At least I've been having problems for the last 2 weeks.
Google is catching slack?
I don't know. I know that Verbling communicates with them when there's a problem. So as far as I know, they're on it. They usually send message to the Google engineers and tell them what's going on. So I don't know, but I don't know exactly what's happening. Okay, hang on a second. Let me see if I can share my screen quickly. And what I'm going to do is put this presentation on screen. Okay, can everyone see that now? What is the Higgs?
I can.
Artur, can you see it?
Yes, I do.
Okay, fantastic. So we're going to take this idea of metaphor, simile, and analogy and look at it. This is from the New York Times as well. So this is, again, the media using metaphor to help explain something complicated. What is the Higgs? Okay, so what do you see in the middle of the screen, everyone?
The quantum.
Sorry, Artur, you go first.
Quantum particle.
Quantum particle. I don't know if that's what I see.
Some kind of dot.
Some kind of dot, yeah. And
that changes states. It's like it's flickering.
It's flickering. Okay. And Artur, what were you going to say?
I think Higgs is a kind of dark matter. Science try to find out it and evidence it with using a big scale of facility. It's an escalator of a parcel. Yeah. I think it is constructed in Europe, maybe.
In the CERN, yeah, they have a particle accelerator, and after smashing subatomic particles together, they tried to see what would come out of the collisions, and it's very, very intricate work because they have to, in a billionth of a second, they have to take a snapshot and see all of the little particles that don't normally exist in nature and try to capture them in a picture and then trace their paths, and it's very, very complicated. And it's hard to understand. So here's what the New York Times did to help us understand using analogy. Let me turn the slide.
Sorry, can I say something?
Go for it.
I wish I could stay here longer, but I really need to stop off for work now. It was a very creative lesson, and I thanking you for it, but I need to go now.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you very much.
No problem. See you next time.
I'm looking forward to being at your class.
And I'm going to give you some homework too. So check your mailbox later.
That's no problem to me.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye all.
Goodbye.
Bye.
All right, so I'm going to play the slideshow, and at the end you tell me about the metaphor being used. Okay, so let's go back and forth and read the titles. Artur, read this title for me.
What is the Higgs field?
Okay, and what do you see below that line? How would you describe that image?
It looks like dark sky.
It looks like the dark sky, yeah, maybe with stars in it or something.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. And Yuki, next, read this one, please.
It's difficult to visualize, so many people resort to metaphor.
Keep going, Yuki.
It has been described as a kind of cosmic molasses.
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 Do you know what molasses is? Can you
molasses is material. It's very sticky material.
Yeah. And also slow.
Yes.
It's very slow. You can see. So how would you describe the picture there?
It looks like honey leaking from
Not leaking, but
dropping from spoon.
Right.
Onto the desk, onto the table.
Right. Instead of dropping, can you think of a better word? Because we don't drop a liquid. We drop a box, but we don't drop a liquid. We drop a solid. We don't drop a liquid. So we
pouring.
Pour, yeah.
Pour.
Right. So it's like honey being poured from a spoon. and it kind of is slow. It doesn't pour very fast. Maybe that's the image we're trying to get here. And Artur, you take the next one.
It has been described as a kind of we read it. No?
We have more. Keep reading.
Dragging on particles as they move through it.
As they move through it. Okay, keep going, Artur.
But we will use a field of snow.
Ah, that's why Yuki was talking about the snow field earlier. Okay.
Yes.
Now I understand. And Artur, how would you describe that picture?
Well, there is a field and just a few trees.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, I think that it's almost empty field with just a few trees on it. So
Just
I think
trees?
yeah.
Just
They
trees.
won't. Sorry?
Just trees? What else?
Snow? But
Snow. Yeah. So the field is covered with snow, and there's a few trees. And there's a difference between the tree in the front and the trees in the back, isn't there? What's the difference?
well, I'm not sure because it's in a perspective, so I can't say exactly if the size is different. So
Maybe it's not the
probably
size. Maybe it's not the size. The trees in the back appear to have either leaves or needles, if they're pine trees. And the tree in the front appears to be what? Does it
naked.
have- yeah, not naked, but bare.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
I also can't hear you, John.
Okay.
He was gone.
Do you live in Tokyo?
Currently, I live in Russia, in Moscow.
In Moscow? Oh, great.
Not great.
I'm going to visit Moscow. I
Really?
think. Yeah, I think probably in 1 month or during 1 month.
What
I
the
have to
purpose?
visit-
For tourism?
No,
No,
on
for
business.
On
Yes.
business. Oh.
I have to visit Canadian consulate for
Oh.
visa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It will be first time to
No,
Russia.
I have been to Moscow several times, and I lived in St. Petersburg.
Yeah.
Yeah, I lived and worked there almost 4 years.
Oh. Amazing.
Yeah.
I can't hear you, John.
Yes.
Are you okay? I see your face, but I can't hear you.
What about now?
Okay,
Can you
now
hear me?
I hear
Yes.
you.
No.
Okay.
Okay.
This time it's a total mystery. I don't know what happened because I don't have anything open, and I just suddenly couldn't do anything. I don't know what's going on.
Why don't you use fire?
I am using Firefox. I am.
You are using Firefox, yeah?
Yes. I use Chrome, and then I switched to Firefox, and then I switched to Chrome, and then I switched back to Firefox. I don't know what's going on. I have no idea. Anyway, as long as you can hear me, that's all that matters. So I'll talk to Verbling. I don't know what's going on with this. Whoops. Let me get the thing back on screen. Hold on a second. It could just be that it doesn't like sharing my screen or something. Give me a second here. Well, I can't even share my screen. It won't work. So, oh wait, maybe it will. Hold on.
Is it so difficult to connect from place where you are?
No, I don't have. I teach online all day long with no problems. All day long.
Just we have problem with Google Hangouts, yeah?
It's just Google Hangouts.
With the bubbling, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know because I use Blackboard, I use Adobe Connect, I use other platforms, and I have no problems at all.
I think you have a quite good condition to connect to internet.
Yeah, I don't think it's me, but it could be. Anyway, can you see the picture on screen now again, or is it?
No, I see.
We see your face.
Your face.
See my face?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think that I'm not able to load the screen sharing. It looks like it won't work. So let me try one more time. If it doesn't work, I'll just ask you to open the link. And
okay, now I see your computer screen.
You do? Okay, and what do you see now? Do you see the image?
Yes, now I see the image.
Wow, good. Okay. So, we left off with the snowy field. Take this one, Yuki.
A skier meets little resistance, and glides easily across the snow field.
Okay, and Artur?
A woman.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry.
A woman shuffles by on snowshoes and is slowed by the snow.
Back to Yuki.
And a man in heavy boots plods along, slowed at every step.
Now, Artur?
While a bird flies over untouched.
Okay, and Yuki?
The Higgs field is like our field of snow.
Is that a simile, metaphor, or analogy?
It's an analogy.
It's a simile.
It's a simile.
Yeah, because it's got like.
Yes.
I think the whole idea is.
The whole idea is an analogy. Yeah, absolutely. But this sentence is a simile because of the word like.
Okay.
And is that it? Oh no, we got one more. Artur?
But instead of countless snowflakes, the field is made up of Higgs bosons.
Yuki?
Particles that interact with Higgs field have mass.
Mass, right. And Artur?
Like the skier. Okay, like the skier, electrons barely interact with the field. They have very little mass.
Wow, this is pretty deep. Yuki?
Like the snow hole.
Wait. That's sure. A person who has snowshoes is what? Worker, snowshoe, what?
Snowshore. Sorry.
Yeah, snowshore.
Snowshore. Like a snowshoe. The quarks that makes up protons and neutrons interact more strongly with the field. They have a bit more mass.
Okay, Artur?
W and Z bosons plod through the Higgs field like people in heavy boots. They have thousands of times more mass.
Plod means to walk heavily. If you plod along, your feet are going stomp, stomp, stomp.
Mhm.
Okay, and Yuki?
Protons and gluons,
Right. Gluons.
protons and gluons don't interact with the field at all.
So they're like the birds flying over. Keep going, Yuki.
They are massless.
Massless. Okay, good. And Artur?
50 years ago, physicists had
Wait.
no idea.
Physicians? No. Read it again.
Physicists.
Well,
Physics. Come on.
you've got physics.
Yeah.
And Yuki? What does it say?
Physicists.
Physicists. Yeah.
Physicists had no idea why some particles had mass and other particles didn't.
So they thought up the Higgs and have been searching for it ever since. Who?
Okay, me. An elusive missing snowflake in our theory of falling snow. This presentation is never going to end. Okay, I think that's it. In search of the Higgs. Is that it? I think
Yes.
so. Imagine
the depths of physics.
Yeah. Imagine never having seen a
It
snowflake.
becomes more complicated.
Now prove a snowflake exists by probing the slush and mist of melting snow. Okay, you get the idea.
Why you give up?
We're going to be here all day, I think. So tell me, with this metaphor, do you feel... Whoops, sorry about that. I have burglars running through my house stealing things. They're knocking over the... Tell me something. Now that you saw this presentation, what do you think about the analogy with the snowfield and the Higgs boson? Does it help you understand the concept, or are you still lost?
I think it helps for better understanding of physics phenomena for us all. I think methodology. Analogy helps us to understand difficult things.
So my idea today was, if you looked at an analogy first, what it is, then you looked at a newspaper article, and maybe looked at one or two other examples, it would help you look for analogies when you're reading in a foreign language, like English. It would help you understand, not just to look for it, but also to use it when you're explaining things, as a technique, as a strategy to get your idea across. So that was the reason why I thought it would be a good idea to look at this. And, of course, it's connected to what's in the news. This article was taken from just a day or two ago, very, very recently. And obviously we're all concerned about global warming and climate change. So it's an important issue because of that. Did everyone see those giant holes in Siberia in the permafrost in the news? What did you... Can you tell Yuki about that? What did you read, or what did you see, Igor? I mean Artur. Sorry, not Igor. Artur.
Oh,
what did you see?
I think that I read that it's a natural thing, and but I don't know why it happened and why the shape is such perfect shape.
Yeah, tell us what actually happened. What did people find? More or less, what did they find? And where did they find it?
In Siberia, they found several such holes.
Holes. Big or little?
Big, quite big.
Very big.
Yeah.
And what were you...
It's a kind of aftermath of falling meteor?
No, not at all. That's the weird thing. because instead of being a crater, there are these perfect circular shapes that are very deep, deep holes in the ground. I forget how many meters. So it's like 18 meters or 20 meters across or something like that, but really deep in the ground. I think if I remember right, it was like 100 meters deep, but maybe I'm crazy. I can't remember. And so it appears that something came out of the Earth. Nothing went into the Earth. It appears that these are explosions coming out of the ground. But they're not sure. It's just a theory. And there's a bunch of them. And the first news about this was like a week ago. So basically, or a week or two ago. So basically, it's a brand new phenomenon that no one ever saw before. And the idea is, because of global warming, the permafrost in Siberia is starting to melt. And it's releasing hundreds of metric tons of methane and trapped gas that were being held underneath the ice. The ground is permanently frozen there. And now it's not frozen. All this gas suddenly heats up and is allowed to escape because there's no ice blocking it, and it explodes like a cannon. That's what they think is happening. So there's an article about, people talk about, turning off your lights and being more environmentally conscious and things like that. But when you see giant holes in Siberia, it puts things in perspective. Imagine that some people live in Siberia. Imagine your house was on top of that. It seems pretty scary because that's such a big change that it's like the first real, besides the tsunamis and typhoons and hurricanes.
It related to the something like climate change.
It appears to be, yeah.
That is going all over the world now, maybe.
It appears to be because the ice is melting.
Ice is melting. Yes.
So
it often said that the ice in Antarctica is melting, and the level of sea is become higher and higher.
Rising
every year. So
the point is, it just shows how interconnected everything is.
Yes, maybe it is interconnected.
Well, with the holes, we don't know, but it seems that way. With the ice melting, I think it's not even a question anymore. It is. And the problem with the Antarctic is that pieces of ice the size of cities break off the Antarctic. Giant pieces of ice start to drift away. So the Antarctic will disappear. There won't be anything there. So there's a lot of penguins that are going to be very unhappy when their houses are gone.
I think it is difficult to decide only from some factor. I think we have to see a whole picture.
I do too, but
happy for penguins.
I do too, but it seems like if you ask scientists, they all seem to agree on it. There's only one media outlet that I've seen besides, Rupert Murdoch. There's only one that seems to really question it, which is the Register, which is a great newspaper magazine for the IT industry, but it's got interesting articles. And they're also very skeptical, which surprises me, because they're really scientifically oriented. And it seems like the scientists all agree on this. Anyway, I believe it because it's better to believe it than not to believe it, because if you're wrong, no harm done. If you're right, you can prevent problems. So I think it's better.
Some scientists insist that global warming is it's not going now, and it is lie. It is related to some industry, as some countries who want to want to reduce the economic development of some developing countries. But I don't think so. I agree with you, John. I think it is better to do something, take measures than doing nothing.
And Artur, do you think that our analogy of the mandala is useful in thinking about climate change?
Yes, maybe. But I don't know climate, definitely climate change is going or not going. Especially global scale of Earth warming. There are many skeptical versions about climate warming is going.
That sounds like a future hot topic. We can look at the skepticism.
But I can say that one exactly that we have to see the whole picture of nature and take measures something to coexist with the nature.
Sounds good to me.
Not to improve, not to change, not to people change the nature. We have to try to coexist with nature, reserving nature. I don't know.
Otherwise, we are the invasive plants in our biosphere. We're the weeds if we don't. We've got to get along with our natural neighbors, like the penguins.
As I mentioned, some farmers in Japanese villages recently think that even weeds is useful for diversify the field. It reach to the enrich the soil and preserve the beautiful nature in the villages. So it is very I think it is dangerous to think that we can change the world, we can change the nature. We have to kill some insect, harmful insect, weeds, to improve our condition. I think it is a very dangerous idea.
What do you think, Artur?
Regarding what?
Well, what do you think about what Yuki's saying? Do you think that it's
changing nature by humankind, by humans' hands?
Thanks.
Maybe he couldn't hear you.
Could you please repeat?
How do you think about changing nature by humans' hands? Is it good or not?
Well, yes, production will increase, population will increase, but I think that technology should be improved to make the harm less, to minimize harmful effect of production. That's the only point.
So you think sometimes it's harmful?
Yes.
To change the condition by human, yeah, kind of something kind of like. Our teacher was going.
In connection problems, I think.
Yes.
But it's actually, I think, time.
Yes,
probably.
Maybe. I don't know our teacher will come back or not. But how is your impression about Russia? You have plenty experience visiting Russia, yeah?
Yes. Well, I have some friends there, living there.
Really?
So, yeah.
I'm sorry. Where are you from?
I'm from Uzbekistan.
Uzbekistan. Now I see. Now I see. So you are usually speaking in Russian or in Uzbek?
Yes, Russian. I speak
Russian.
Russian.
Oh, that's good. To say the truth, I live here more than 15 years in Moscow. So.
So did you learn Russian?
Yes, обычно я говорю по-русски.
Отлично.
but I'm confused.
Okay. Is it more easy to speak Russian or English for you?
It's much easier to speak in Russian than in English. But I have joined in babbling class already a year. So now it became easier to speak in English. Practice makes sense. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Practice makes perfect. Yeah.
Perfect. Yes. You are right. So, but in daily life, I use, of course, more Russian than English. So.
So, do you work there in Moscow?
Yes, mainly I teach Japanese here in Moscow.
In university or that's special?
Sometimes in school, language school, sometimes privately. Yes, to Russian students.
I see.
So,
Okay.
now I understand why you come to Moscow so often. You have a business tie. You have a connection, business connection with Moscow.
Yes, some friends, and since I work there, so sometimes I come to Moscow or St. Petersburg. And I have a little brother studying in St. Petersburg at the moment. So.
Who? Brother?
Yeah, brother.
You have brother living in Moscow?
No, in St. Petersburg.
In St. Petersburg. Okay. So you also often visit St. Petersburg? Yeah.
Yes, quite often.
Quite often. I think how do you think there is a big difference between Russia and Uzbekistan? I mean the atmosphere, people's nature.
Well,
I heard that the people in Uzbekistan is more friendly than people in Moscow. No?
yes, that's possible, I think. Yeah. Here, if you come to Uzbekistan, you can easily find friends, talk with them, and everyone is happy. And in Moscow, people have their own business. They have little free time to talk to a stranger, so that's why. So,
many people looks cool, cold here in Moscow. I understand. I haven't visited